Hello and welcome to Fit Girl Club Confidently You podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. This is a podcast for all the women out there who are fed up of seeing all the nonsense online, all the rubbish that tells you how to get a quick fix to fad diets that don't work, because what they don't do is they don't help you look at the root cause. I'm here to break through all that narrative, give you genuine, open, honest advice. If you know me, I can't do anything but be honest with you. And hopefully, along the way, you're going to learn some tricks and tips that are going to help you lose body fat and feel more confident in your own skin for life. This isn't just about being skinny. This is about feeling your best you can possibly feel. You aren't a lost cause. I just wanted to let you know there is hope out there, and I'm going to help you see that. So welcome to the first episode. I'm so excited to be doing this. I've been thinking about this for such a long time. I did have a podcast a few years ago, and I think it was a bit too generic. It was a bit too, when I started as a coach 6 years ago, I was a bit like, this is fat loss, this is how you gain muscle. Whereas I've learned from coaching hundreds of women, it's not about that. Life is messy. Day to day is messy. Everything's messy and it's not perfect. And my tagline is literally progress over perfection. So I want to show you that in a podcast. I don't want this perfect podcast of, if you eat this, you will lose fat like a robot. ChatGPT can tell you that. You need real, open, honest advice for someone that's walked the walk. And hopefully I'll be getting on some guests as well if some of my clients will come on. If you want to be a guest, I'd love to have you. Just to have a chat about your life and your struggles and what's helped you and little things like that. Because, girls, it's about keeping it real. That's all I can ever do. So, first episode, of course, is going to be all about me. I love talking about myself, and I think it's one of my hot topics, but no, I joke. But also, I think it's really important for you as a listener, if you've never met me before or heard of me, I'm Helen. Hi. I am the owner of Fit Girl Club and my Confidently You podcast. My coaching online is helping women become more confidently you. It does what it says on the tin. So I think it's really important, if you've never met me, to go through a bit of my life and what I've been through. Before I start this, I will go quite deep. I have done a lot of work on myself, on my confidence, and I'm willing to be vulnerable. If there is anything that I say in this podcast episode that triggers you or upsets you, then all I can do is apologise. But for most of you, it might flick a switch, which I think is really important in helping you move forward until you realise that there's something in your life that's not working. You can't fix it. But if I trigger you about anything, any of the topics that I discuss in today's podcast, then please either ask for help or message me. Like, I'm just a person. My door is always open. I'm literally, what you see is what you get. I'm always happy to listen to anyone. You don't have to be a paying client to ask for help. And I want to keep that very, very transparent. If I could do this for free, I would. But I need money to pay my bills and to buy my dog, I'd say food, but like everything she wants, because she's my baby. But what's really important to know is that my door's always open. And if anything brought up, yeah, like I've discussed. Okay, let's get to it. Let's go deep, back down memory lane of Helen's life. Don't worry, I'm not going to be like, in 1987 she was born. I've got some notes to keep me on track because I absolutely love a tangent. So I'm going to try and look at you as much as I can, but I'm going to read my notes. See, I'm honest. So let's go back to my teens, really. So growing up, Yorkshire, Filey, Hummonby, born and bred. That's where I grew up, that's where I lived, and lovely family, mum, dad, brother, fantastic. But I don't know how old you are, but if you're a millennial, what was quite common when we were younger, and if you're younger then, if you're like in your 20s, you're probably like, oh my god, this sounds mental. Your parents might have done this. But it was so common back then that we just started drinking and smoking weed at a young age, and I honestly started going out clubbing when I was 14. I'm not even kidding you. I was getting into nightclubs. I had older friends, and it's just what we did. It baffles me now because I'll skip a few. I am sober now, but it baffles me now that that's what we did for kicks. Anyway, I loved it. I loved it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I had the best time. I did quite well at school. I ended up going to a private school, inheritance, yes. And I love school, but I'd go out partying. It's like I lived two lives. I'd be partying on a weekend with my friends, pretending I was older, drinking, and then I'd work at a little tea shack, and then I would go to school. Anyway, so I did that for years and didn't care about nutrition. I was really lucky that my parents always gave me good food. We always had like vegetables and meat, and I know that sounds really basic, but it wasn't like ready meals actually. To be honest with you, I wasn't allowed to go to McDonald's till I was 10, and I hated my dad for that. But as I've got older, I actually appreciate him for it, so thanks, Dad. Appreciate you for that. But at the time, fuming. Anyway, so I didn't really care about nutrition or looking after my body. Obviously, I just got partying and drinking. I think I stayed slim because I danced a lot. You know, I was first on the dance floor, last one off. I did sports growing up, but I was in all the teams at school, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want to be in the teams. It wasn't like it was something I was passionate about. And then in my late teens, I got very turbulent, very troubled. I have been to therapy for this, and I'll talk about that later. But I ended up meeting someone, and it ended up being an abusive relationship. He was very controlling, narcissistic. I didn't realise though at the time, girls. I was 18, thought I'd met the love of my life. He actually saved me from partying too much and throwing my life down the drain. Definitely used to use as it was a celebration. It was commiseration. It was everything. So it'd be 2 bottles of wine every night. And this was when I was like 18, 19. Looking back, you're like, that's not normal. And it was 20 cigarettes as well, just really unhealthy lifestyle. And when I got in a comfortable relationship, I put all the weight on, and then I did a diet. First diet I ever did, and that was the Special K diet. I will do a full episode about the Special K diet at some point. Also, I do amalgamate my words, so I'll try not to do that. Definitely an ADHD tendency. I'm trying to like, boop. So I'm trying to slow down and not get too excited. But if I do that, apologies. I tend to put two words in one. So I did the Special K diet, and I lost the weight. Great, because it works. But I'll talk about that in another episode. And then I left my partner. I woke up one day and I thought, what am I doing here? I was miserable. I was depressed. And then I didn't realise till a few years later that he was actually abusive, very controlling. I didn't have any friends, wasn't allowed to do anything, got told off for everything. There's a lot of things that happened. And I said at the start, there's a bit of a trigger warning here, but I won't go into too much detail. But there was a lot of things that happened in that relationship that it took me many years to work through, because I didn't work through them in a good way. I ran away. I became a holiday rep. So, best years of my life. I did repping for 6 years. I worked my way up to manager. I was manager of a resort in Jamaica. Like, what a life. I've worked ski seasons and I learnt to ski. I've worked all over the world with some amazing people. For half my career with TUI overseas, I was a rep, and for half I was team leader or resort manager. So I had the extra responsibility and I loved it. And I climbed the ladder, but I never felt good enough. And I always felt like I was doing a bad job. I always had this, I looked on the outside, everyone that knows me as a rep was like, Helen, so much fun, party Helen, woo, really good at a job. But on the inside, I had this really low self-worth still, and I was just really anxious, and I was still using a lot of alcohol. Repping lifestyle was a party lifestyle. I'm not sure what it's like now, but it was encouraged. We'd drink every night, we'd party all the time. We'd go on all-nighters, and we'd go to work the next day and be dealing with, guests in resort. But sometimes we dealt with quite serious things. I've dealt with deaths, I've dealt with sexual assault, I've dealt with, not me personally, and obviously I've not died, I'm not a ghost, but my guests, and you have to deal with that. Gosh, one time I dealt with a guy who got really seriously injured in a biking accident, and I remember dealing with his, having to tell his wife. That's just, well, you don't get trained for that. You just do it. Yeah, most days it's all singing or dancing. You're around the pool, you're dressed up as Thompson the dog, don't ask, doing party dances. But then the next day, you're dealing with a in-resort death or having to call the police on a guest because they've started on another guest. Honestly, I've dealt with everything. Gives you a lot of life experience becoming a holiday rep. It's not just the partying that you see on the old TV shows. But when that came to my habits and my lifestyle, I had terrible choices. So for years it was just drinking and not eating much and looking after myself. And then I got placed on an island that was 11, it still is 11 kilometres by 3, not was. So it was the size of my village growing up and it had a smaller population. It was tiny. So I was used to going to big resorts in Menorca, I've worked in Lanzarote, Gran Canaria, where you had everything on your doorstep. And I got put on this island. Well, I got asked if I wanted to go there. It was like a promotion where I'd manage this island. And I said yes, of course, because I'm not silly. And I got there and there's no party, no drinking. And my colleague there, she's a local lady called Karina. She was one of my first catalysts. You have these little catalysts in your life and these moments you look back on where people or circumstances brought different views and opinions into your life, and it's a catalyst to change. This podcast could be your catalyst to change. You could listen to this and you could be 6 episodes in and be like, well, actually, ding, ding, ding. Just sometimes it is the way it works. With me, it's mostly the way it works is these subliminal messages. If you tell me to do something, I will not do it. If you're doing it next to me and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. That looks, maybe I should try that. I'll do it. Anyway, Karina, she pestered me. She did my head in, to be honest with you. I love her to bits. Absolutely love her. But she pecked my head about going to the gym. Come to the gym. Come to the gym. And I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. And then I knew I had to do something. And plus I was bored. I wasn't drinking as much because there was no party life. So I went to the gym with her. And she did some weights and I didn't like it. I was like, I don't want to be bulky. Honestly, girls, this was me at 27. I'm 38 now. So 10 years ago, I don't want to be bulky. I can't lift weights. But it had set off a chain reaction in my head. So although I said to Karina after that, no, I'm not coming to the gym with you, I did start going to the hotel gym. Very blessed that when I worked overseas, I worked in a lot of hotels where you could use all the facilities and eat all the food. So I started going to the hotel gym and I remember the first day I walked in. It's funny how you remember some things. And I walked into the hotel gym and they had cross trainers, treadmills, other bits of kit and a static bike. And I was like, oh, I can do the bike. I can go on a bike for 20 minutes. Easy. I've ridden a bike before. Got on, tried to do 20 minutes, absolutely died. Absolutely died. Like dead, girls. On the easiest, just dead. Honestly, it killed me. And I remember seeing a woman running on the treadmill and she was running and she was going fast and she was smiling. I was like, how is she doing that? How on earth is she running like that? How is she not dying? How is she not out of breath? How is she smiling? I wish I could be like that woman. So I didn't give up. I kept going back, but in my head I couldn't go every day because that was bad. So I only went Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 3 days a week. And then I started looking at my diet. And like I said, I was eating in all-inclusive restaurants. Fantastic, 4-star, top-notch, all-inclusive restaurants, where they've got the griddle, they've got all the salads, but they've also got the ice cream, the cakes, everything there. So you can choose poor quality food choices or you can choose nutrient-dense quality food choices. And I didn't know anything about calories then or energy expenditure or anything like that. The internet wasn't really as much of a thing back then. So I just did what I thought you do and I just cut out bread, rice, pasta. I just ate clean. I just went clean eating, griddled fish and salad. I always skipped breakfast. I was still smoking, so it was coffee and a fag for breakfast. Griddled fish and salad for lunch, and then evening meal would be meat and veg or fish and veg. Every day. Until Sunday, when I'd allow myself to have a 3-course dinner and a bit of cheese. There was no takeaways on the island. There was one supermarket, so I wasn't eating crisps or takeaways or sweets or anything like that because it wasn't there. So this is where you start to see the restriction coming in. Now, some of it was my choice, but some of it, obviously, it wasn't there. But this is where restriction started happening. And I did used to look at Karina, who was really fit and slim and toned and healthy. And she used to have like 3 cookies every day. And I was like, oh, you can't eat cookies if you want to. And I don't know why it didn't click in my head that I could eat cookies, because you can eat cookies, girls. She used to have like a cheese toastie for breakfast, but then she'd also have salad and fish and balance. Whereas I just went full restriction, cardio in the gym. I'd do cardio and abs. And then skip 6 months, 4 months by the time, I was really slim. I was tiny. I lost all the body fat, hadn't really gained any muscle. I was running on the treadmill by then. Woohoo! I was fit, but I was slim. I'll have to find a picture of me, and I was really slim. So that was restriction. I kept that up for a couple of years, and I'd put on a little bit of weight when I'd started to eat a little bit normally, and then I'd lose it again because I'd restrict again. And I started this like restrict binge cycle. Obviously, I left Porto Santo, I went travelling, I went backpacking around Asia. I didn't really put any weight on there, but I'd eat 1 meal a day and then drink a lot. Just being on your feet, just kept. I wasn't healthy. This is the main point to say. I lost my body fat, so I lost a couple of stone. I didn't weigh myself then either, I had no idea. So I looked up quite, a bit overweight. I needed to lose some weight, but then I went really slim. I was tiny. I was like, I could get into a size 10 Next jeans. That's small for me, for my body shape. And there was no body fat on me. I was just like, I looked like a rectangle, like a little block of cheese. Just, yeah, straight up, straight down. And I was restrict binging. And I was just still in this cycle. And that went on for a few years. After I went to Asia, I then did a year in Jamaica and similar, but I got more into my running, and then I started doing like Joe Wicks HIIT sessions as well. So some body weight HIIT sessions, and I did have the mindset of that you needed to beast yourself. If you weren't sweating or absolutely blowing in the gym, you weren't doing it properly. Honestly, everything I teach now, I did the opposite. So this is what I mean by I walk the walk. So then after I left Jamaica, I then moved to Australia for 2 years. So I decided to go, that was it. I was going to live in Australia for the rest of my life. Goodbye world. There I got really restrictive with my food. So I could tell you exactly what I used to eat every day, apart from on the weekend. Well, I'll tell you what I ate on the weekends. Monday to Friday it would be, because I wouldn't drink till Saturday. Monday to Friday used to be a smoothie in the morning. Oh, scrap that actually, go back. I'd get up at 5, get the bus down to the gym, go to the gym, and then go to work in the city centre. I'd have a smoothie for breakfast, which was like yogurt, fruit. I used to put like spirulina in, which is like algae, because I heard it was like healthy. Spinach. This like smoothie that was alright. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Lunch was 4 rice cakes with cottage cheese and a tomato. Half a tub of cottage cheese and tomato. That was it. 4. This is it. This is, honestly, makes me laugh because it's like so silly. And then dinner was always like 2 thin bits of salmon with like, in Australia they do this thing called kale slaw. It's this massive, I still do like this, massive bag of like kale mix with something else with other bits, and it's got like crunchy bits in, and then got a yogurt dressing. And then if I was hungry, I'd have an apple and 10 almonds. Monday to Friday, that was it. And I was getting well over 10,000 steps a day, well over, because I was walking to the bus, then the bus to the train, and then walking in the city centre, and then I'd always go for a walk on my lunch break. Plus, depending on where I was working, I had 2 jobs while I was in Australia. I had to do, like, run errands and stuff. I was an office manager for a big financial company. Mad jobs I had. I had these mad jobs. Just side note. My other job, I was quality assurance, junior quality associate. Girls, I ain't got a degree. I ain't got any history of this. I fall into these jobs. If you work hard at something, you can do well. Junior quality associate for a medical company. If you work in hospitals, or if you ever spend time in hospitals, look at the equipment. It's called by a company called Stryker. I worked for them. I actually got offered sponsorships for both of them, but I decided I didn't want to live in Australia then. I wanted to come back to the UK. But one positive thing that happened in Australia was I got into weight training. So I, by chance again, was going to the gym, doing my cardio, made some friends in the gym, and there was a guy coming in doing a free class and he said, come and try it. And it was Y-bells. And if any of you know me, a bit of my past, Y-bells are a weight that's a kettlebell, medicine ball and dumbbell in one, and I've still got some. When I used to do my online classes in lockdown, I used to talk about Y-bells a lot because we did a Y-bell inspired class on a Friday, which is mental. And the owner of this company, it's a massive company now. It's not even just in Australia, it's gone worldwide. He worked with the people who made TRX as well. He's done really well for himself as and he's such a good guy. And I don't know why, he just literally took me under his wing. He did 6 weeks of these free classes, and I was the only person that went to every single one. Then after that, he gave me a free set of the weights, and he said I was allowed to go down to his class on Bondi Beach whenever I wanted. He did this 6 a.m. class as the sun was rising over Bondi. Honestly, you can't write this, can you? Can't make this up. 6 o'clock class, sun was rising over Bondi Beach, and I used to go to that. Gosh, it used to be hot, but I used to go occasionally to that. But that was hard to get to because where I lived, you'd have to travel down to Bondi, and then obviously I'd have to get back up to work. Anyway, he did get me into weight training, so that was my first touch, but that was only like lifting little dumbbells and stuff, and I got into that. So I'd gone from just cardio to doing a bit of weights, just little weights, but it was still HIIT style training. It was still burpees and jumping around and sweating like a mad woman. So back to my diet. Fish and a rice cake every day, basically. And then come Saturday, oh yes, it's time, party time, all out. Massive crate of Coronas, I drink them all. I've got this problem with drinking, and I'll talk about that in a minute, where once I pop, I cannot stop. And it's one of the main reasons why I stopped drinking altogether. But I'd have a massive crate of Corona, then I'd drink gin and soda, because it's low calories. We'd go through half a bottle of gin before we went out. Then we'd go out, I'd party all night, dancing all night, and then on Sunday, oh great, hangover. And I planned for this every week. I knew I'd be hungover, so I'd order a family-sized pizza, and I mean 18-inch. It was huge. I'd eat the whole thing. I'd get a massive bag of sweets, they call them lollies in Australia, a kilogram bag, and I'd eat them all. And it wasn't till I learnt about calories that I learnt that was 3,000 calories in the sweets, I think, and the pizza was another 3,000 calories. So I'd restrict all week, eating like 1,000 calories a day, and then massive binge on Sunday. Then Monday I'd feel like shit and do it all again. And I'd be anxious because of all the drinking and the partying. Fill in the gaps with the partying where you want to there. Because I'd be up all night, and I'd have no sleep all weekend. And then I'd feel terrible on a Monday, and then we'd go again. And I did this every week for months. Until I realised I was sick of it. It was making me ill. I got absolutely sick of it. I was feeling really anxious. I was in my early 30s. I turned 30. I was like, where's my life going? What am I doing? Still travelling around the world. And that's when I put a stop to things. So I stopped drinking for a bit. And I'd go through these stages where I'd stop drinking for like a month or so. I could stop easily. It didn't bother me. I could always stop, but it's once I started. I can't be that person that just goes like, oh, should we go for one? Oh, yeah, that sounds nice. Absolutely not. I'd be out all night. And it didn't matter if I was on my own. I'd find someone to be out with. Didn't matter. Honestly, I could tell you some stories, but maybe that's not for this podcast. Maybe if we get a Q&A one week, if you ask me for a crazy story about when I was a mental woman, I will tell you, but maybe not. Some things are kept best to myself. So that was my wake-up call, and then I decided to just chill out a bit, start working on my mindset. I also met another good friend, another catalyst, Serena. Her name's not Serena, Sarita. Sorry, Sarita. We're not spoken years, but I'd love her to bits as well. Another catalyst. And she was doing all these things, like writing down this stuff and she'd read it every day. And I'm like, what is this that you're reading to yourself? She's like, oh, it's my affirmations. And I laughed at her. I was like, that's so stupid. Sigh. You all know I do that now, don't you? But this is the thing. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to try something that you once thought was stupid. We're allowed to turn around and go, oh, actually, I was wrong. And sometimes the people that get the best results are the ones that turn around and say, actually, that belief I had wasn't serving me well. So I started reading, I read books before, but I started reading personal development books, and I read a book. I remember where I was when I read it. I was on the beach and I read a book by Brian Keane, and it's called The Fitness Mindset. And I was like, wow, this is such a wake-up call to food and nutrition and fitness and mindset and everything. The clues in the name. And on that beach that day, this is how, honestly, knee-jerk reaction I am. I was like, I'm going to become a fitness coach. I want to change my life and become and teach people how to do this. And I want to do it as well. So that was in the February. So I moved back home in the June and I trained to become a fitness coach. I moved to Manchester. I did my course there. It was a 8-week course. Moved into an Airbnb. And then once I qualified, I stayed in Manchester and I got a job in Pure Gym. Pure Gym Market Street. And my first day, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I'd never touched a barbell before, really. But I had the passion. I knew how to lose weight, and I knew now about calories and energy expenditure, and I learned over time more and more and more and more about nutrition. And honestly, after 6 years of being so passionate about nutrition, women's health, hormones, not just fitness, but mindset and limiting beliefs and overcoming the all or nothing mindset and just everything that encompasses the coaching that I do now, I've learned so much and now I'm in the best position to help women. But when I started in as a PT, I learned a lot along the way. But after 6 months, I was nearly fully booked because I was always open and honest. I tried my best and I made things fun and I helped people. So I always went in with, I do see a lot of coaches and I don't want to bad mouth people. I might do an episode about rubbish that I've heard coaches say or stuff that I see online that I know is not true and it's just clickbait. But yeah, unfortunately, some coaches are in it for the wrong reason. Maybe they just like sport at school and they start being a coach and then they start telling women how to live their lives and stuff, and I'm just not about that at all. It makes me sad. But anyway, I digress. So I then learned about calories and nutrition and weight training and that you didn't have to beast yourself, and I started growing muscle. Let's have some ego time. So I've done 150 kilogram hip thrust. I've squatted over 100 kilograms. I've deadlifted 112, I think I've done. I've done 2 high roxes. I did CrossFit for a few years. I've done a pull-up, done keeping pull-ups. What else have I done? I've done loads of stuff in fitness. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it and all different types of fitness. And there is no one size fits all. What I think is really important that you can absolutely fit anything into your life. And then over time, I have learned about my all or nothing mindset. So when I became a coach, I wasn't really about the all or nothing mindset. I was about balance and nutrition. But over time, I've learned that I don't need to restrict. And I do eat nutrient dense food the majority of the time, but it's not because I want to be skinny. It's because it makes me feel good. It gives me energy. I used to be able to not buy a thing of Jaffa cakes because I'd eat the whole lot, or once I ate a whole packet of ginger nuts. This was when I was a coach as well. Whole pack of ginger nuts in one go. Oh my God, mouth burn on that. But I don't do that anymore. I can have stuff in my cupboard. I can have one when I want it. On a weekend, usually I'll have, like this weekend just gone, I've just had a couple of chocolates that my friend brought me. Really nice, high quality chocolates. Cup of tea. Absolutely enjoyed them. But I don't need to go back to the cupboard and get more, because I've worked on my mental health when it comes to restriction and binging. And now that's what I specialise women with, overcoming that all or nothing mindset. I also help a lot with emotional eating. Now, I never had an issue with emotional eating, but I firmly believe that a lot of us, not everyone, but most of us, especially in the era we grew up, have something that we use as helping with our emotions. Now, mine was alcohol. So I got sober at 33, 38 now, 33, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5 years, 4 and a bit years, just before my 34th birthday. And it was a decision I made. And you know how I got sober? I'd been on an all-nighter again, and I was just like, I've had enough of this. I wasn't really drinking that much at the time, but I'd still go on occasional nights out. And when I went on a night out, it just ended up, I just loved it. I was at a party, then I was at another party, then I was at someone else's house, and it just escalated. It always escalated. And I was feeling really anxious on the Sunday, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I stopped drinking. But I didn't tell everyone I'd stopped drinking. I didn't say I'd gone sober. I just said, I'm going to stop for a month. Then after a month, I said, I'll do 3 months. Then after 3 months, I was like, I'm going to do a year. And then after a year, that was it. And I've never looked back. And I don't actually miss it at all. I've completely changed my lifestyle. I don't even really go out at night. I like to go to bed at 9, up at 6 every day. But this is my personal choice. And I'm not saying you should go sober like me, because that's your personal choice. If you could have one wine and enjoy it, or if I could have a nice gin on a weekend and enjoy it, but not use it because I'm stressed, and not use it because I'm anxious, or not use it because I need to relax, because that's where it becomes a problem. If it becomes part of your identity of how you associate relaxation, same with food. So if you can drink and just enjoy it, or be at a social occasion and enjoy a couple of drinks, and that's nothing, it doesn't affect your life or having a knock-on effect, or give you anxiety or make you feel down, then you do you. Always. And I'll always encourage my clients, not encourage them to drink, but how to incorporate in your life and still lose fat, or, reach your goals and be healthy. But when it comes to emotional eating, that's a lot harder, because I always say to my clients, and I will do an episode about this, but I always say to my clients, you can't get rid of food. You can't just get rid of food, and emotional eating is food. But when it comes to emotional eating, you need to learn another path to deal with those emotions. And it's the same with drinking. So I needed to learn how to deal with my emotions and how to deal with previous trauma. I'd never gotten over my trauma from my ex-relationship. I've never dealt with it. I just pushed it away and carried on with my life. But when I got sober, I thought it was time to deal with it, and I went to therapy. Going to therapy was the hardest thing I've ever done. I will never tell you it's easy. It's not easy. It is tough. And I do think I was, for want of a better word, depressed for a while after it. It took me... I started in the January, and it wasn't till... I'd finished in the August that year, and it wasn't till nearly a year later that I got my spark back. And I lost it for so long, I thought, maybe I just don't have it anymore. But it came back. I dealt with it, and you have to bring up all this old stuff. And I went in. When I went to therapy, I let everything out. I let it all out, and I dealt with it. And it's the best thing I've ever done, but it's also the hardest thing I've ever done, because you have to bring up all you and it. It's just so raw, and it's tough. But my therapist was fantastic, and I'm very grateful that I've done it, because now I feel like I've taken a step forward. And now I feel like I can talk about it as well, which is the difference. Would everyone know before? Would everyone know that I had trauma? I used to speak about it a bit, but not really. And then obviously now, if anything happens, like, this is really sad, and sorry if this triggers you as well. My gran died this year. She was 106. She's just an amazing woman, and she's my role model. I think I want to do an episode about my gran as well. Absolute role model to me, and I love her so much. But it's the first real death that I've had since I've gone sober, and it was odd dealing with it, like proper grieving and feeling those feelings, and you're allowed to feel those feelings. I think we suppress these feelings for so long that we don't know how to feel, and learning to feel those feelings and be part of who we are, and just ride the wave, girls. You've just got to ride the wave, the good, the bad. I always say to people, if you were constantly on a high, which I feel like I used to be on this high, and then I'd go into lows like this. Whereas if you're constantly in here and you ride the wave, the lows never feel that low, because the highs aren't. I got these super highs. I used to be like high, crash low, depressed and down and flat, and it was exhausting. Whereas if you regulate your emotions and your mood and you keep it here, it will make you feel a lot better in the long run. But that's how you need to come up with something. And I do help my clients with this, dealing with emotional eating and finding other outlets. And it's about progress, not perfection. You're not just going to wake up tomorrow and be fixed. You need to undo years of bad habits, and you can create new neurological pathways to help you deal with those emotions. So other things that have really helped me in the last few years, especially, step into my higher power, let's call it, and my true self, my true confident, authentic self. I used to think confidence was about being the loudest person in the room. It's absolutely not. That wasn't confident. That was me giving this fake facade of confidence, but deep down I was anxious. Confidence is being able to walk into a room and be silent, being able to sit in silence. Meditation has taught me that as well. And meditation isn't crossing your legs and being in these positions. Sometimes it's a 5-minute, stick a YouTube on. Sometimes I listen to it, sometimes I don't. I've done over 3-4 years of meditation, and it's what works for me, because my brain is constantly on from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. And just having 5 minutes where I can switch off and not think about work or life or things going on just gives me a little break, and it helps me. It's about affirmations. It's about doing my daily gratitude. Yes, these all sound like buzzwords, but every night I write down at least 3 things that make me happy, and it just makes you realise how much joy you can have in your life. I had something happen the other week and it really upset me, something in my personal life, and I was upset and I went off, and then I was like, wait a minute, let's think about things you're grateful for. And it does really bring you back down to earth, that it's not that bad, what you're going through, and it does help. Just having little things like my partner and my dog and the sun shining and my amazing clients and my community that I have, just little things, food on my table, a roof over your head, like with everything going on in the world. I won't ever go into politics, by the way, but with everything going on in the world, it's nice to just stop and be like, well, actually, I've got some nice tap water that I can drink in the safety of my own home. Wow. Protecting your peace is a huge one for me, and it's absolutely changed my life. Say no. Just say no. Do you want to come here? No. You're allowed to say no. Why have we been brought up to think that we have to say yes to everyone? Can you do this? Yes, yes, yes. No. And also having, and this is a podcast for another day as well, but having people around you. I used to think I had to be the life and soul, have everyone around me, have loads of friends. I've got a handful of really, really close friends, and I love and care for them as much as they love and care for me. And it's a two-way street. Friendship should be a two-way street, where it's a relationship where you can give, but they can also take from you. Not this one-way street. You're allowed to have boundaries. And if someone is draining your energy, they're a mood hoover and they're draining your resources, even if they're a family member, that's harder though. You are allowed to put up your boundaries and go, I'm not accepting this from you. You've got to protect your peace, girls, because that's, when it comes to your true confidence, it's about you. And this doesn't mean it's about you sacking everyone off or doing whatever you want, because to be honest with you, drunk Helen did that more. She didn't care about anyone. She was just out for herself to get drunk and have a good time, and didn't care about the consequences. Whereas now, I'll quite happily say, if I've had a really tough week and someone's like, do you want to do this? And then I'll be like, no, I can't. I've got to have a day off where I just sit in my house, walk my dog, and just protect your peace. And I'm not saying you say no to everything, but you decide. This is your choice to preserve your energy. And that's the true sense of becoming more confidently you. So, we've been on quite a journey there of where I used to be and where I am now. I did think I missed one bit though, and that's really important to me. That after I finished therapy, and then I was depressed for nearly a year, just felt really flat. I just have to get up, I'd go do my class. When I did in-person classes, I'm fully online now, but I was doing in-person classes, and then I'd go back to bed for an hour before my next client, even though I'd had 8-9 hours sleep. I was just exhausted. And I rode that wave and I came out of it at the other end. But one thing I think really helped me is I got back into running. And don't worry, this isn't going to be a running podcast. I will talk about running at one point, but also this is about you finding something that lights you up. And having that purpose and going out and running just gave me this spark back. And since then I did a half road marathon. Then I signed up for a trail half. Then I did a trail ultra, which was 30 miles, 50k, which I did in June. Then I've had an injury and I'm recovering from that at the minute, which I had during the ultra. I will do an episode about the ultra as well, I think. And we'll call it my Unfit to Ultra journey. And then next year I signed up for a 50 miler. But I just love being outside, running, all weathers. Say running, ultra running's a bit walking as well, but I'm an ultra marathon now as well. So ultra marathoner, crossfitter, bodybuilder, high roxer, you name it, I've done it. Because I love it. Because it makes me feel good. Not because anyone told me I had to do it to look a certain way. My whole outlook from when I started losing fat to get healthier, I wasn't healthy then, I was skinny. I was slim, I wasn't healthy. I was still smoking, I was still drinking, and I was tiny. Now, I don't drink, I do not smoke. I haven't touched a cigarette since I stopped drinking. It's funny that, isn't it? I have really good habits, the best habits. Honestly, my only vice is my 1 coffee a day. I look after myself, and it's all personal choice. I just love feeling this way, and I love looking after my body. And I might have an alcohol-free gin on a weekend if I'm letting my hair down a bit. But apart from that, I get my kicks from being outside, hiking, running, and being with my friends, going for a coffee, and just loving life, going on adventures. So Hope you enjoyed my intro into the world of Confidently You, and feel free to send me any messages, or if any part of this podcast has maybe opened something inside you or touched on something that you didn't know was there. Like I said, my door is always open. So over the next episodes, I'm going to be teaching you how to break through all or nothing patterns, sustainable approaches to health and wellness, the no BS approach from Helen, a mindset that actually creates lasting change, and how to navigate social situations, life changes, and what the road is going to be like to become more confidently you. Thanks for listening. See you next week.